Okay, y'all, I'm about to show you guys the world's easiest sourdough recipe. So, there's a few things you need that are kitchen must. You must have a scale. Everything you do is by weight with sourdough, and it's pretty easy. So, what we have here, this isn't a KitchenAid stand mixer. You can do everything here by hand, but I just found my method's the easiest, laziest way to make delicious sourdough bread that seems to turn out for me almost every time. So anyway, what we have here is a kilogram, 1,000 grams. I keep everything, in international units here just to make things easier. So we got a kilo of bread flour here. I'm already weighed out 20 grams of kosher salt. I'll go ahead and put that in there. So we're up to 1,020, 29. I guess it was a little over on that, but it's close enough. Now, that much salt seems like a lot, but that's the only thing that's giving your bread any flavor, so you've got to put that salt in. All right, next thing you do is 700 grams of water. I'm pouring it out of the Brita filter because the Brita allegedly takes out all the chlorine in there so that your sourdough will ferment properly. It's probably not that important, but I do it anyway. So, see here? Okay, we're just about plus 20. Alright, so there we go. You can see that we're up to about 1,720. Now the next thing is you need about 250 grams of starter. Now if you're a little short on starter, don't worry about it. Oh, but I don't have a starter, Dan. What do I do? Hey, easy enough. Ooh, we actually went a little bit over on that. Alright, here we are at the stand mixer. This is a KitchenAid. Anyone says, oh, I can't afford a KitchenAid. It's nonsense. If you have friends who are bakers, what you want to do is say, hey, you know what? That KitchenAid you have in your kitchen there, it's looking a little old. You probably want to sell it to me for real cheap and go buy yourself a brand new one. I think it's time. You deserve it. So basically, you just gotta talk one of your friends into buying the KitchenAid and giving you their old one, or put in a few bucks for one. You won't regret it. So I have on the dough hook attachment here. You see that? Ooh, yeah. See the dough hook? Like I said, world's easiest. So now this first part's a little tricky because I'm just gonna give it a few bump starts here. Because what's gonna happen is things are gonna start getting a little crazy, and that all that flour in there is going to want to go everywhere if you just put it in there and turn it to high. So once again, if you have this is the 5.5 quart. If you have the 6.5 quart, you probably won't run into this problem. As you can see, I'm losing a little bit of flour over the edges, but overall, not too bad. So as it starts getting more incorporated, you can let it kind of run a little bit more. Unless there's like a super slow mix way to do this, because I'm sure this isn't great for the KitchenAid, but I haven't burnt it out yet. Okay, so now that it's kind of incorporated, you can also, some of them have a little thing on the side you can put up there. So basically you'll see this dough. It's gonna be a pretty wet and sticky dough. It's got something called hydration. You want the dough to be pretty well hydrated for sourdough. But as you can see what's going on here, you can see there's only a little bit of dough left, or a little bit of flour left in the bottom here, and it's starting to incorporate. Now what you want to look for is you want to make sure that your dough's not coming up over this thing right here. If it starts coming up over that, then you need to shut it off before it wraps up around your whole KitchenAid. Okay, I'm back. So basically I've let the mixer run for, I don't know, 2-3 minutes. You can see everything in there is getting pretty well mixed up. There's a little bit of graininess, consistency to the dough. That's all right. That will kind of go away as we let things rest a little bit. Okay, y'all. While we're waiting for that to go, I'm gonna do a little discussion about starter. So, what is starter? Starter is basically nature's goodies that make your sourdough sourdough. Now this starter I've actually had in the back of the fridge for about 6 months until last week I decided to pull it out and take the stuff in the bottom, which just looked like sludge at that point, and start feeding it again. This stuff's darn near indestructible so long as you remember two things. One, if it's out on the counter, you should feed it. If it's in the fridge, you should still feed it maybe once a week, but don't worry about it too much. Like I said, I let this one sit for a while, and it took a little reviving to get it back to normal, but here we are. Now, the second thing with the starters, you want to use, either distilled water or dechlorinated water for your starter. Now, to feed it, it's super easy. So I'm gonna slap some flour in here real quick. Let's go like 100 grams or so. Now, this is a funnel not designed for flour, so it's gonna take a minute to actually get it down in there. But basically, what you want to do is get that flour in there. And to feed it, it's really just equal parts. So, equal parts by weight, not by volume. So, let me get that shaken in there. So, there you go. 100 grams of flour's in there now. So, let me zero out my scale again. Alright, next, 100 grams of water. Water's pretty heavy, so it fills pretty quick. There we go, about 100 grams. Now, you never want to use all of your starter in your sourdough, otherwise you have to start over. But basically, when you're starting it, you start with half water, half flour. However big your container is, you want to make sure you have a lot of room at the top, because you're going to be adding more and more flour, and you're basically feeding your starter. Now, what you should notice is after a few days, if you're using a good quality bread flour, is you'll get these bubbles in the flour, and you'll see, or the bubbles in your starter, and you'll see it kind of rising to the top. And then you'll mix in a new batch, and it'll kind of rise even more. Eventually, you're gonna have to pour some off. But if you see like good vigorous bubbling, that means that you're gonna be doing good for your sourdough starter. Now, you probably have to feed it every day for up to a week. So once it's good to go, so say you're like, oh, I want sourdough bread. Well, you should be good to go by next week on their sourdough. So start it on a Sunday and have sourdough the next Sunday. All right, here we are about a half hour later. Basically, we're just gonna kind of stir it up. You see how it's kind of binding up on the mixer attachment. You can kind of peel that off of there. So basically, what you'll see now, where you didn't see that before, it's a lot, it kind of sticks together. It's all kind of gloopy, like glue. You can see if I get it started here, it'll just kind of pull itself off with a mixer attachment. Science. Alright, here we go again. Got a little stuck on the back there. Alright, come back another half hour. Okay, we're about 2 hours into it now. Every 15 or 20, 30 minutes of it is coming in here. You can see how sticky this is, how it's all sticking together nicely. You lift it up, it almost falls off. So that means it's getting really close. So I'll probably do it another couple of times, then I'll turn it out onto a floured baking surface. Look at that gluten getting in there. Okay, at some point you want to get to where you're basically ready to let it rise and double and all that stuff after it's mixed for a long time. Okay, I've mixed it probably 5 times, 6 times maybe. Gluten's pretty well developed at this point. We're going to go ahead and put it out on our dough. We're basically put the dough out so it can rise. Okay, so at this point we're taking our batter. Seems like batter, it can be that way. Basically taking the dough and we're going to dump it out onto a well-floured surface. And then basically get it all out of there. It's way easier two-handed than one-handed. So basically get it out of there, get it onto the flour. So it's got a really nice texture to it. Okay, so once it's out, basically you're going to want to do two hands kind of in a twisting motion. And basically you're going to be stretching the top and kind of twisting as you turn it around. So, and then after that, cover it with a metal bowl and repeat that a couple of times. Preheat your oven to 450 degrees with your cast iron pot in there. Alright, so now with this, what you're going to do is probably looking about like this. You see these nice little bubbles going here. So it's still a little too wide. Not a ton of tension, but you just want to kind of tuck it up underneath like so. Okay. Okay, so now at this point, you got your smoking hot Dutch oven. Got some old flour in there that's all burning. It's good stuff. So you want to get some new flour. Sprinkle it in there. Make sure you get a good amount. Next, you're going to take your knob that you have. Just drop it right in the middle there. Now, very important that you do something so the steam can come out. And if it's Valentine's Day, you can make a little heart shape on there, I guess. And then it's going to go in there for 20 minutes at 450 degrees. And we'll come back and look at our oven spring here in a minute. Well, here we are. Let's take a look at our oven spring, see if it did anything here. Oh my, look at that. That's looking good. So we're just gonna put the lid down, pop it back in the oven. And up here we're gonna drop that from 450. Let's just drop it down to 350, another 20-30 minutes, should be done. Alright, it's time for the big reveal here. So let's see how it looks. Super crispy crust. There you go. That looks pretty good. It's a little heart shape. Oh, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Do not eat this before it's cooled down, otherwise it'll turn into a gummy mess. Everybody have a good one. Happy Valentine's Day. And here's the final result. Delicious and amazing bread.